Hello and privet everyone, welcome to the second episode of the beautiful city of Sovietgrad, where I try to build everything in an Eastern European theme. If you haven't seen my previous episode, definitely check it out where I explain how I did the road layout and where I take inspiration from. But about this video, this has been awaited by quite a few people who wanted to see the time-lapse of the church park that I did, which is going to appear later on in the video. But right now what I'm doing here is detailing this nice little outside market, which is quite a common thing to see. Not sure if in entire Eastern Europe, but at least in Romania there are plenty of places where there is usually a big market building where people sell groceries and different kind of produce, and then outside there are some old babushkas selling flowers or whatever they have to sell, and it's pretty cool. It's like an extension of the main market, and I always loved to walk around those places as they have quite an interesting atmosphere, and it's quite funny to hear the way the babushkas shout after you to buy their stuff. For this market I'm using the wonderful assets on the Steam workshop created by Giz, if I pronounce that correctly, who is a very talented asset creator, and I simply love all the little details he adds to those assets. Of course, you have to zoom in quite a lot to be able to see everything, and very often times I had to actually stay zoomed in to about 20 or 30 FOV on the cinematics camera extended mode, just to be able to place everything where I need to. And as you can see, I tried to think of the general scene and get that vibe going, like how close do the people need to walk next to the products being sold, or how many products should I actually add on the tables. And I was also thinking about each vendor, like what is he selling, what type of person he is, and so on. And we actually joked about this quite a lot on my Twitch stream when I was building this live, wondering how much alcohol they have stashed secretly under the table to make the day go by easier. As you can see right now, I try to detail the backside of the so-called open market, where the vendors keep their stuff in different crates, or where they leave their bicycles, and how are they transporting the goods to the market, by cars or different kinds of carts. In the end, this area turned out pretty good, and I'm really happy with the results. Alright, moving on, you can see me build a small area with garages, which is a very common thing to see everywhere in Eastern Europe. Usually between the apartment blocks there is a courtyard with a ton of garages, which back in my childhood it was quite a cool place to play around, or different construction sites where we would play hide and seek and so on. But nowadays in bigger cities the town halls are slowly starting to demolish these garages and make parking lots, but because more and more people are buying cars and there simply isn't enough free space to park them. But what I'm building here is like a miniature, because if you look on Google Maps in different cities in Russia, for example, you will find huge areas of garages next to each other, stretching for hundreds of meters. And I'm not sure about this, but I think over there they actually use them mostly for storage areas, not necessarily to place their cars, because there isn't a lot of residential around them. Maybe someone from Russia can explain this in the comments below the video, but yeah. The garages I'm using here are made by a guy named Pashka on the workshop, and I'm also using a different kind of garages, which you can see I convert into procedural objects, so I can close the doors just to make them a bit different between each other, as I cannot stand having the same asset copy pasted over and over again, and I think it is a bit detrimental for the entire view of the area if you build like that. Okay, and here we are on the time-lapse of the park. This whole thing started with the idea of, hey, we gotta add the church in this city, it's a must. And then I went on the workshop looking for different Orthodox churches, and the moment I saw this one, I fell in love with it because it is absolutely huge in size, and I thought that it's gonna be a really cool main focal point in my city. That's why I added it at the end of a very important street, so it can be seen on the horizon level when people walk or drive on the street towards it. And the building is called Cathedral of Christ the Savior, and it is located in Moscow. And you can search for this name on the workshop if you want to use this in your city. Anyway, what you see me doing here is adding guidelines with a line decal after I measured everything to be symmetrical. The lines that you see underneath were network lines, and the problem with that was that when I was adding the paths for people to walk, the nodes of those paths would stick together with the network line nodes. And it was a pain in the ass to work with. So that's why I decided, after everything was in place and I measured everything, to just add line decals over those guidelines and then remove the network lines underneath. The reason I did this was to actually be able to have the paths and everything pretty symmetrical in length and size and all that, let's say, aesthetically pleasing. So you can see how after I made all the guidelines, I can actually move all the nodes from the paths to the crossings of the line decals, and all of them will be equally symmetrical. Of course, it isn't exactly pixel perfect, but it turned out quite well in the end. And now, with all the paths laid out, I started the inner decorations, let's call it like that. So I added a retaining wall to create those shapes where I will add the flowers, hedges, grass and some trees, which I will mirror on the other side of the park with the help of the Move It mod, which is probably my favorite mod and I cannot live without it, so cheers to the creator of this mod. And after I detailed each shape with hedges and flowers, I added a grass decal on the inside of each shape, and then I added the trees with planters, but I had to take another network line to make sure they are aligned properly. Regarding the position of the trees on the other axis, I just tried to eyeball the center of the shape and then just mirror all the trees together with the planters on the other side, again with the help of the Move It mod. When all this was done, I added this absolutely beautiful fence around the park together with the gates. You don't see in the video here, but of course I moved the gates in an open position so people don't actually walk through the gates, which would probably make my eyes bleed. After that, I went on adding a couple of kiosks on both sides where people can buy some food or water, and then the idea came to mind that, hey, I don't really like the texture on the path, so of course I had to change it, and I found a pretty cool texture on the workshop which I turned into procedural object and added it everywhere in the entire park. After that, I had to do a couple of small fixes on the entrances to the park, where I added again the red curb, which can be seen everywhere in the park as well, because I thought it looks great and it adds a bit of contrast to the green of the grass and the grey from the texture of the paths where people walk. Of course, when doing this, I found out that the red curbs don't actually form a 90 degrees angle, and the problem was from the outside fence because it wasn't properly aligned, so of course I had to redo all that. After that, I decided that people should actually be able to walk around the church area, so this part was a bit challenging because again I didn't want people to actually go through the corner of the church inside the walls and stuff like that, which drive me absolutely crazy. So of course I had to extend the main stairs that lead towards the church, which in turn means I have to redo all the walls that surround the church, and yeah, it was quite a lot of tedious work, but in the end people walk perfectly up and down the church area and it looks great. So after all that was fully functional on all sides of the church, I was left out with this space between the church fence and the park fence, and I didn't really know exactly what to do there, but with some feedback from the people in my live stream, we decided together to actually add parking lots on both sides. So I did that and detailed them a little bit with with some planters with flowers and added a few benches where people can relax a little bit. All in all, I am really proud of this church and park, and I just love the symmetry and alignment of everything in this area. And speaking about alignment, you will see very soon in the video when I detail the front side of the stairs that a street light from the road is placed quite randomly, and I wanted it to be aligned with the middle door of the church, so I removed it from the road and placed it manually where it needs to be. In my eyes, it's those little details that make everything aesthetically pleasing. Anyway, we are getting close to the end, and because this is the first time I made a voiceover video where I discuss what I did or how I did everything that you see. If you have any feedback for me, leave it down in the comments below. I don't know exactly what format to have for those type of videos, but I can only assume people like to hear some commentary and not just music over the entire video. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you would like to see me making stuff in Cities Skylines live, you can come to my Twitch streams, the link is down in the description, and I also have a Discord where you can come and hang around with us in my little community, and you can share your own creations in the game as well. Alright, thank you everyone, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, do svidaniya.